So how to speed up your awakening really fast, like cut it down to the minimum amount of time. It does take time. This idea that there's these overnight awakenings because you're already awake is pretty much a fallacy. You know, occasionally someone has a complete overnight awakening, but it's very rare. Ramana Maharshi had one, and even Eckhart Tolle doesn't say he had one, even though people assumed he did because the way his book is written. At the very beginning of his book, he said, you know, I woke up and the trees were luminous. That's my Eckhart Tolle impression. The trees were glowing and everything was new. He had quite a long journey, and as I understand it. So the way to speed up your process is to spend time with people who talk about this topic, and particularly people who are a little bit further down the road than you. And this is the role of a teacher. This is what I am now adopting as my role. I used to be a banker. I used to trade bonds at Goldman Sachs, of all things. And now I do this. And the way to speed up your awakening is to ask questions. Ask questions. You have to become courageous to clear all doubts. And that means you ask the most difficult and awkward questions. Right? So I am now starting live events every Sunday, 8 p.m. Chiang Mai time, 6 a.m. LA, that will be 9 a.m. New York, and that will be 2 p.m. London on a Sunday. Okay, so it's a global time zone. You can all join in. And my request for you is to come to these events and ask me the most difficult questions that you can come up. I don't want you to come along and, you know, play nice and say, oh, you know, I mean, unless you do agree and you are finding it in your experience, because it's really not about agreement. We're not looking for a mental alignment here. We're looking for an experience that you are having that you can point to that feels liberated, right? So I'm opening these events. They're completely free. And you come along and you ask the most challenging questions to clarify all the doubts that you have. You've been living as a separate self for somewhere between, 20 to 80 years. So that's a lot of unpacking to do. And it's like a stack of cards that as you start, I actually use the game Jenga. Jenga is my favorite analogy. So that game Jenga, and you pull out the blocks, and at some point, the whole edifice collapses. And that's what it's like. But if you're just at home watching videos, it can help. Keep watching them. Play them all the time. Have them on in the background. Because you're trying to, undo decades of conditioning, right? And then you come along and you ask the questions. But what about this? But what about that? When you said this, what did you mean? When I do this, I don't have that experience. I can't feel oneness. I don't see this being benefit. I don't feel liberated. I don't like that there's bad things going on in the world. How can there be a oneness when there's wars? Everything that goes on in your mind, bring it to these meetings. I want to hear it all, because this is how you are going to find clarity. And I can assure you, right, with a guarantee that if you stick with this and you watch videos and you ask questions and you test it in your own experience, you will begin to emanate and enjoy what's being spoke of in this field. I guarantee it. I can't say it any other way. I guarantee it. You know why I guarantee it? Because it's your nature. It's like if a baby could speak and the baby was like, I can never learn to walk. I'm like, I can assure you that if you practice every day, you follow what other people are doing who can walk, you test it in your own experience, you make it your own skill, so you're not relying on someone else holding you up, you will begin to walk. In fact, the Tibetans use a beautiful statement. They say the Garuda, which is like a giant eagle, a Garuda only crosses the abyss when it jumps. It doesn't know its wings work until it flies. So a Garuda standing on the cliff is like a human not realizing they're already awake. But you only get to know that if you jump into the abyss. And that means testing this in your life, testing it with the difficult emotions, with the cravings, with the addictions, with the relationships, with the attachments, with the fears. You test it with everything, and conviction dawns. It dawns like the rising sun, right? It's so powerful. It's like all of your issues in your life are the stars in the sky at night, and they seem like they're there forever. But in the morning, when the sun comes up, the sun of awakening outshines the stars of your issues. And you're like, wow, this really is real. Is it real? This really is real. So that's what I'm offering here. Go to the description link and click, and then you go to my events, and then you can register to go to the events. And I've got them on Sundays, and you'll see a calendar there, and you can register. And then when you do that, you'll get a link, a calendar thing, or an email with a link. I sound like I've never been online before in my life. It's an automated system that will send you a link to the call. All right, I'll see you there. I hope to see all of you there. It's fantastic. Oh, and by the way, thank you for 2,000 subscribers. Yes, everyone come along. Let's have a real big non-duality mashup. I'll see you soon.